Hi friends, I'm happy to be with you now as we continue our journey through the book of Revelation. As you remember, we went through chapters 6 and 7 where it referred to the seven sealed book and the sealing of the 144,000, the coming of Christ, the great multitude which no man could number gathered before the throne of God. And what a glorious and beautiful message that was at the end of chapter 7. And so now in chapter 8, we're looking at the seven trumpets. And the seven trumpets have been traditionally interpreted as the Muslim invasions of Europe and Africa and places, Arabia. It's talked about three woes. And they have what they call these war jihads, and where they overcome other nationalities and overcome property and territories. And they've had two of these already. And they're planning for one-third jihad, where they plan to take over the Jerusalem and rule in Jerusalem. And Daniel's prophecy in chapter 11, verse 45, talks about a foreign army overcoming Jerusalem and putting their flag there, so to speak, and ruling from Jerusalem. And at that time, there'll be a time of trouble such as never was, and Michael will stand up, the great prince, which will deliver your people, Israel. And we know in the Bible that Israel is the overcomers, those who love and obey God and Jesus Christ. The true Israel, the true church, is Israel. And so we're going to take a look here in chapter 8. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. It's like a pause, an interval from Act 1. Now we're going to go to Act 2. And the seven sealed book brought us all the way up to the coming of Christ, the gathering of the saints into heaven, where we would be fed with the water of life, and God would take care of us, and we'd live, for happily ever after. But now we're going to take a back step and go back through some more details of the final events leading up to that. In verse 2, I saw seven angels which stood before God, and to them were given seven trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar having a golden censer. Now a censer is a pot where they would put herbs and burn incense, a smoke or smell. And they would do this in the Mosaic sanctuary, the tent of meeting in the wilderness. And so this angel has a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. God remembers every prayer. Our prayers are all recorded. Our prayers are never lost. And it referred to this also in Revelation, I think it was chapter 5. Talked about the prayers, the vials of prayers. So our prayers are all there. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. So God hears every one of our prayers. And they're treasured. Our prayers are precious to God. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. So this seems like the end of human probation. This seems like the last sinner has repented, and you're either sealed with the seal of God or you have the mark of the beast. And there's a reference also describing this in Revelation 22, verse 11, he that is unjust or wicked, let him be unjust still. And he which is filthy, let him be filthy still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is holy, let him be holy still. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according as his work shall be. And so Jesus is saying that when probation closes, we can't cross over the line anymore. We're either saved or we're lost at that point. But when that happens, there's still a period of time before the actual coming of Christ. It's like Noah and his wife and children, 8 of them, went into the ark. The animals, 2 pairs of each animal, and 7 pairs of the clean animals came into the ark. The door of the ark was shut, that huge boat. And for 7 days, everything seemed normal. And then the rains came and the floods came, and the world that then was perished in the waters of the flood. That's in Genesis 6, chapter 6. And so again, when human probation closes, things will continue on in the earth for a little longer. And so that's the 7 trumpets, the judgments that come upon the planet. And verse 6, the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. The first angel sounded, and there was hail, balls of ice, and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of trees was burned up, and all green grass was burnt up. This reminds me of the 10 plagues that came on Egypt when God was bringing his people out of Egypt through the Red Sea, through the wilderness, to the promised land of Canaan, a land flowing with milk and honey. So God is getting ready to rescue his people once again from this planet. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood, and a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Now you'll notice a repetition here, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, over and over in chapters 8 and 9. Just like you have 7 repeated over and over, 7 trumpets, 7 seals, 7 angels, 7 plagues. The 1/3 is repeated here again and again. And verse 10, the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it were a lamp, and fell upon the third part of the rivers and fountains of waters. And this star is called wormwood, and many men died of the waters, they were made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars were smitten or struck, so that they were darkened, and the day did not shine for a third part of it. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those who live on the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the 3 angels which are yet to sound. So that's the first 4 angels in chapter 8. Now we're going to go through the next angels here in chapter 9. The 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by the smoke of the pit. And out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and to them was given power as scorpions. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing or trees, but only those men which do not have the seal of God in their foreheads. The wicked, the sinner, are going to be tormented here. And that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was like a scorpion when he strikes, when he stings a man. Very painful. And in those days men will seek death and shall not find it, and desire to die, and death will flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like to horses prepared to battle, and they had on their heads crowns of gold, and their faces like faces of men, and their hair as the hair of women, and their teeth like lions. And they had breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the sound of chariots and many horses running to battle. And they had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And he had a king over them, the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, or destruction, and in the Greek language has his name Apollyon, destroyer. And they've interpreted this as Muslim invasions. The angel of the bottomless pit sounds to me like Lucifer, Satan, the devil. And these locusts seem like fallen angels, but it could be something else. It could be more than one interpretation, more than one application. We know this is a judgment, and one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel, Loose the 4 angels that are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the 4 angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, a day, a month, and a year, to slay or put to death the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen was 200,000. And I saw the horses in the vision, and those who sat on them, having breastplates of fire and jacinth and brimstone. And the heads of the horses were like lions, and out of their mouths issued fire, smoke, and brimstone. It almost sounds like modern artillery. And by these 3 were the third part of men killed by fire and smoke and brimstone, which issued out of their mouths, for their powers in their mouth and tails. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues yet did not repent of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver, brass, stone, and of wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. This is almost like a sadness in the voice of the Lord, saying, these people still don't repent. Neither repented they of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts and stealing. They just didn't want to repent, and that's really sad. And then so that's the 6 trumpets. Now there's one more trumpet to sound, and that's going to be in chapter 11, again leading up to the second coming of Christ. And then in chapter 12 we go back and start all over again, going up to another more information, more knowledge, leading up to again to the second coming of Christ in chapter 19. And then we have the promise of his coming in chapter 22. So these things are repeated over and over in the book of Revelation, and each time it gives more detail, more knowledge, more information applicable to God's church and his people through all ages, through the last 2,000 years, from the early church to our time, the last generation. So it has a lot for our time, for our generation, but it was manna, it was heavenly food for God's people, spiritual food through all time, the last 2,000 years. And so we'll get into chapter 10 and 11 next time. God bless you, friends. Thank you for tuning in. God bless you.